I should have a share now on there. You got 4? It's showing 4 watching.
We got 4. Yes, we are live. I see you. Good morning, Lebnun. How are yous? Good morning, Lebnun. Good morning, Lebnun. The sun is up. It's time to get stuff done. The coffee's hot. Come on and get you some. Good morning. Good morning, Lebnun. You're trying to sing.
I'm trying. I'm quiet though.
Smell the cedar trees floating on the breeze. It's gonna be a brand new day. And Tennessee is a place to be. I wouldn't live any other place. Good morning, Lebnun. And the crowd goes wild. Morning, Chris.
Morning. You're breaking me down. I'm slowly singing a little bit.
I heard him singing a little bit. Next thing you know, he'll be catching harmonies.
I don't know if
He'll
I'll
be
do
singing.
that.
You don't know? Good morning, Lebnun. Sip.
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 What's going on, man? What are we drinking today? Tell me what
So
you want to talk about.
we have an organic Colombian, medium roast level on drip. Really good, just solid, smooth coffee. A good all-day drinker, so that's what we've got on our drip. And then we've got our Haywire for the light roast. That's kind of our all-time popular coffee, so I try to keep it. We've got a couple things going this week. So on Saturday morning, Jen from Jen's Crumb will be here in the shop. So she makes organic granola, and it is delicious stuff. We do sell some of the jars here. She makes a bar too, so she's going to restock us on the bars, and she's going to be doing free samples in the shop Saturday morning. So you can come in, taste it, see what you think of it, try it out. You won't be disappointed. It's good stuff. If you are disappointed, I'm sorry, I'll get you a coffee. But anyways, another big thing, I'm going to do basically a breakfast special. So if you buy now through August 1st, in the morning you come in, and starting tomorrow morning, you get a hot sandwich or a biscuit bomb. You get a free small coffee with your deal. So get your free coffee, get your breakfast, stop by here. We open up at 6 a.m. Breakfast usually lasts till around 9:30. Depends how busy we've been. That's all my specials.
Well, let me tell y'all, I don't discriminate when it comes to most food, but I had the biscuit bomb for the first time, and yes, last Wednesday after the show, and I had the chorizo, and it's the bomb. Yeah, it was good, and I'm not just saying that to say that.
Yeah, we've got 2 different ones now. We started with the original breakfast sausage, which we get that. We add in some spices and mix our ground pork for that one, and we get that from a local store. And then we get the chorizo now too, and I just want to add those different. So you got a breakfast sausage, egg, and cheese stuffed into a homemade biscuit dough, and then we butter that and wrap it up and give it to you. And what you do with that's your business. And then we do one with the chorizo, egg, and cheese. So if you want a little more flavor, a little more spice, that chorizo is the one you want to go for.
It was awesome. I mean, it was decadent. I mean, I was like going down the road going, oh my gosh, where has this been all my life?
Right here in the hot case.
It's been right there in the hot case. And so what do you have today? Which flavors?
So for those 2, I have them all the time. We've got a breakfast sausage, which is like our original, and then we've got the chorizo. That's for the biscuit bombs. Then we do the croissant sandwiches. We bake our croissants. Got bacon, egg, and cheese, ham and cheese, and egg and cheese for those.
So have you won any awards this week or anything?
No, I don't. Not that I'm aware of. Nobody's mailed me.
Main Street Award winner.
Yeah.
He's just like... it's not bragging if it's the truth.
I mean, it is the truth, but that is because we keep the customer up front, and we keep the quality of our product up front. If you're just relying on sales and reputation and what you say to carry, it's not going to get you those. Right. It's got to be what you make.
Well, and I think you and other merchants on the square have been so appreciative of the people of Lebnun, and it's tough times for almost anybody. Everybody seems to be struggling a little bit, if nothing, with the uncertainty of what's going on, and so
it's a little bit of a roller coaster, but it's still solid traffic. Customers are great, and we're here for them. Awesome, and they're supporting us and keeping us going.
And once you come through the door and you order and you come back here and sit down, or whatever, you can take your mask off and drink your coffee.
You don't have to wear. I mean, you can't really drink or eat coffee
while
you wear a mask. So I keep that in the front of our mind. We're sanitizing and cleaning after everybody leaves, and trying to keep everything as safe as we can.
All right.
So
Is that it?
That's all I got.
That's it?
I finished
All right.
off my notes, so I'll get out your way and let you get to the guest everybody wants to hear.
Just one more.
One more little sip.
One cheer.
There you go, man.
Thank
you.
You're welcome. Man, I have my guest has brought his own fandom, his own legion of fans.
He's got a crowd.
He's got a. You've got 4, I think, don't you? You've got 4, and that's in person. That's not counting the millions that are online.
They'll cut out.
So you can just clip that on. You can just leave that there. So my next guest, my only guest, is Mark Fain. Mark, thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me.
When I first talked to your wife Jessica about having you on the show, it was a deal of trying to figure out when, because you were on the road with all of it.
Yeah.
And I looked at the schedule, and you guys were playing so much. I said, I don't know when I'll ever be able to get him on.
Yeah, Lyle likes to go out for. I was just filling in for the regular guy, and Lyle likes to go out for about 6 weeks at a time, and then do something else after that.
Yeah.
You know, so.
Well, you guys were. I looked at the schedule, and you like go down to Florida in the South and just start working your way up, come up through Alabama and Auburn and all those places.
Yeah. It was good. It was good.
Y'all playing almost every night.
Yeah, that's the other thing. He likes to play every night. He'll take one night off, but he just he's got it down to a science to where he knows what's cost effective.
Yeah, right.
And he's fun. We had a good time. I didn't get much sleep on that tour.
Well, then of course COVID happened, and that kind of puts you at home. And so I'm like, if I'm going to get Mark on the show, this is going to be the time to get on. But I thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Now you grew up you were born in East Tennessee.
Yeah, I was born in Rogersville, East Tennessee, just a little small town. We have less than 4,000, well, less than 5,000 people.
What county is that?
Hawkins County.
Hawkins County. And when you're growing up over there, what were you into besides music?
Yeah, well, pretty much that was it. I grew up on a tobacco farm, and when I was about 10, I didn't want to do that anymore. You know,
I've never worked tobacco.
It's the hard, but you know, now I kind of wish I was back doing that. But you know, so I've just always been into music since I was a kid. My uncles played, and I can never remember wanting to do anything else other than just play music from.
Yeah.
You know.
So you were that kid that when you had a chance to sit in the room and play by yourself on Friday night, were you doing that?
Yeah. That's pretty much what I did. You know, I listened, just like every kid, I was into rock and roll, I was into the Beatles, and then when I started getting serious about it, I was into the Grand Ole Opry and, you know, and those guys. And, and Jimmy Capps, who just passed away.
Right.
You know, he was one of my mentors.
Really? Well, that's funny. I never had a chance. I didn't have a chance to post it, but I had a picture with me and Jimmy from about 3 years ago, and I didn't hear it till a couple of days after he passed away, and I meant to post it on social media. Jimmy Capps, I'm from Northeast Alabama, and of course DeKalb County is the home of the Louvin brothers.
That's right, yeah.
And I didn't know it until I was reading Satan is Real, which is the book that Charlie Louvin wrote before he passed away. Great book. I don't care if you love country music or not. If you know who the Louvin brothers are, it is a great. It's been made to movie.
Oh,
you know
great!
That?
Well, they're characters. I mean, those
and they got some big names signed up for it, like one of the Phoenixes or the guys. So it's supposed to be a big production.
Yeah.
But there's a chapter in that book about Jimmy Capps.
Yeah, you know, I met Jimmy when I was 14 on a session from a little local gospel group that I used to play with, and they were businessmen in Kingsport. These guys were, and one of them's wives, and they would come to Nashville, and they would just hire the guys that were playing on the records.
Yeah.
Which, you know, they were paying those guys master scale. These were all the guys playing on all the country records. And that's how I met Jimmy. And, you know, and years later, you know, I didn't realize he was on the road with them for like 14 years. Yeah. You know, a long time. And
those of y'all that don't know who Jimmy Capps was, he played on the Opry House Band for years and years. Played on some really big stuff, but he was the sheriff on. If you ever watched Larry's Diner on RFD TV, Jimmy was the sheriff on there.
He played on so much. He played on The Gambler. I mean, you can't even begin to name the hits that he played on.
He said that he played like 12 different layers on that Gambler recording, and it only sounds like one guitar. But They had it played capoed all the different places. And I got to meet him through WSM 650, and I actually got to perform 2 songs with the Opry House Band. I got to do Mama Tried and Guitars and Cadillacs.
Oh, good.
And Jimmy was the leader of the house band, and I got to play with them. And I could never pay to do that. Jimmy was just so nice. And,
he was the best. I mean, I'm going to miss him. I sub in the house band for the regular guy. I'm everybody's sub, it seems to be. But you know, in the last few years, Jimmy wasn't always there, and I was always excited to sub in the house band and play with people. But I was really excited that I was going to get to play with Jimmy every time. That was what I really looked forward to.
Such a class act.
Yeah.
Terry Pereira, I'm not sure. Good morning from Lexington, Kentucky. Is that one of your friends? Poirier?
Maybe.
Yeah. Say hello. Go ahead and hit like so the algorithm will kick in, and other people will see this. And so your uncle's very influential in your. Now, are these your dad's brothers, your mom's brothers?
You know what? They were my grandmother's brothers played, and they influenced me. They played bluegrass, and they grew up around Sneedville, Tennessee, which is where Jimmy Martin was from. Mm-hmm. If you follow bluegrass, so that was kind of my influence from bluegrass. But my other uncle was by marriage, and they owned the music store in my hometown.
Yeah,
and
they were the first Fender dealers.
They were the first Fender dealers in East Tennessee. So when I was growing up, all these people from Nashville would come through because the interstate at the time came through Rogersville. This 481 was built, and they would stop by and get amps and guitars, and you know, I've got pictures of Merle Travis at my uncle's house, and Tennessee Ernie Ford came by a lot, and you know, it was really cool to get to meet those people when you're 8 years old or whatever.
Then those Fenders really shaped the sound of American music, our world. I mean, the whole music, the whole world. Yeah. I read Buck Owens' autobiography that was completed after he died, and they're talking about that Bakersfield sound and stuff, and they weren't trying to go for a sound. They just plugged those him and Don just plugged those 2 guitars into the same amp and turned everything up.
You know,
because the bars were so loud, and they had to have something twangy to cut through it.
Right before Merle Haggard got really famous, they came through Rogersville, and my uncles and them had him put on a show. And
Merle Haggard.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Roy Nichols. This was just right before he had his first hit, and Roy Nichols, Merle's guitar player that had played on all of those hits, you know. Yeah. He was telling my uncle that they were starving to death if they didn't have a hit. That every one of them was getting out of the music business, and you know. And he said it was less than a month till they, you know.
Yeah. Merle said in his book that he always felt bad when Roy got in bad health and had wound up retired and was in a wheelchair, and people. After a show, and everybody was coming up to Merle to try to get his autograph before he got on his tour bus, and Roy was kind of sitting over there on the side in the wheelchair, and Merle said, you know, look, if y'all really want to get the autograph of the real hero, there's the guy right there.
I can believe Merle said that, you know. That's the truth. You know?
Yeah. Poirier, Terry says her last name is pronounced Poirier. I'm sorry, Terry. I'm not good at my French. I'm not good with the French. Thank you for watching. So your uncles were first in East Tennessee there now, and you got started in gospel music,
you know,
as far as playing.
That was kind of my goal was always to be a session player, and that was kind of my end to the session music world. When those gospel groups that I kind of grew up playing with would come to Nashville to record, then I would meet all the guys that were playing. You know, Bob Moore played bass on all that stuff, and Bob Moore was on the front of Time magazine as playing on more hits than anybody in the history of music, really. And I met all those guys. That was really kind of my end. I could see garage bands not, you know, being from East Tennessee, you don't have access to get your music out to people like you would if you were in New York City or Nashville or someplace, you know. And we wouldn't have known what to do, you know.
Yeah.
But that was kind of why I pursued that music. You know,
Now, was there a moment, or was it a gradual thing over time, where you thought, man, I'm going to be able to make a living doing this.
Well, I still wonder about that. You know, music business is funny. Yeah, you know, I guess maybe so. Yeah, I'm trying to think of. I never thought about doing anything else, but music business, you kind of have to always keep promoting yourself. It never ends.
Right.
You know, you have to. Once you think you've got it, you don't. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it's just a.
That's one of the things I've kind of learned as a songwriter and getting to know some of these people. The people that are on top, they're worried about staying there.
Oh yeah, and they're not going to. You know, no. It's just kind of maintaining. And I've been lucky to go out with people who have a large fan base, and you know, and play on some of those records and stuff. That's. But I mean, every one of them say that they had gotten so tired of fighting to stay on the radio.
Stay on the radio, yeah.
You know.
And there's a few that have been, and everybody has their day where you know they're not anymore.
Yeah.
And but I think overall life is a struggle, right?
Oh,
life is a struggle. You just pick which profession you're in, and then.
You know, it's good. I mean, I can't see me doing anything else. You know, at this point, but
yeah. Well, Lisa Tomlinson says she is the Mark Fain fan club president.
Yeah,
I know she is. I'm friends with Lisa T, and she loves you and your wife. Polly Hankins, hello from Rutledge.
Hey.
Terry Poirier says that he saw you playing in Memorial Fest in 2015 he was playing bass with the Canadian band the Spinney Brothers. So does that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
so
man.
that's it.
Yeah, those guys are great.
Yeah. So, anyways, thank you for watching, Terry. So, you know, it's one of the things that you were talking about, practicing and playing all the time. I remember reading an interview with Eddie Van Halen, and of course, this is a guy that, you know, is a guitar god. And he said people always thought that it was just this grand life that he lived, and he was thankful for it. But he said, you know, when people were out hanging out on Friday nights and Saturday nights, I was practicing. I was sitting there playing my guitar.
Yeah, that's really the way that it is, you know. And, Roseanne Cash just wrote a great article, and it was talking about how, and we've all, you know, been this way. 5 years ago, she was complaining, you know, it was late at night, got off an airplane, and going to get the rental car, and all of that, you know. It's I was complaining, but now I'm kind of missing it.
Right.
You know.
It's I heard an interview with somebody, and I can't remember who it was, but this one guy was a guitarist, and he was complaining to another guy. He said, you know, I wish I like playing music, but I hate spending the night in hotels, and I hate having to fly on airplanes and do this stuff. And the other guy said, man, that's part of the gig.
Oh yeah.
You just got to learn to
I've been fortunate enough to break into better hotel rooms with better artists.
So is there a moment early on? Let me go here first. J.D. Sumner, who most of y'all may or may not know, J.D. was in the Southern Gospel business and then wound up becoming part of Elvis's.
Yeah. His group, the Stamps, ended up being the Elvis's background singers. Mm-hmm. You know, from started in 1970. They were the Imperials was another gospel group. That's who Elvis had hired, and they left Elvis to go do the Jimmy Dean show.
Yeah.
So
you get to stay at home.
I guess so.
They didn't have to stay on the road. But you worked with JD?
Yeah, sure did. He really kind of really opened up a lot of doors for me, and I would go out and play with him from time to time. Whenever I started playing, I went my first full-time job with this group called the Singing Americans, and it was part of the Stamps. Ed Hill, who just passed away last week, was kind of like my father, and he was in the group, and he had sung with Elvis. But his claim to fame was he was the guy that said Elvis has left the building.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, after all the shows, that was his.
He's the one who came.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So just being around JD and those guys, everybody knew JD. All the country people knew JD, and rock and roll people knew JD. And it's really something.
So Rick Bell wants to know how I was playing with Tom Petty.
Well, it was great.
Did you play with actually? Or
Yeah.
did you play on a recording with him?
Well,
or did you play with him live?
Well, he produced Chris Hillman's record, and he played on some of. We all, I was out for a week, and when we were recording this record, and Tom played, and some of the Heartbreakers played. Ben Mott and Steve Ferroni, the drummer, played, and it was great. I mean, Tom. We were going to play some more. I was on vacation in Italy, Jessica and I, and we got a message from Mark Carpenter, which was kind of Tom's guy, that he just texted, "Tom's okay. Don't believe what you're reading or hear on the well, we hadn't watched TV in 2 weeks, and so I sent him a text. What's going on? Well, Tom was in the hospital. And come to find out, he was probably already passed away.
Yeah, that was a weird situation. We were in Gulf Shores, and then we heard he's dead. He had passed away. Then, well, maybe he's not. It was that was strange.
I was coming back. We were coming back from vacation, and when I got back, I was flying out to Los Angeles to rehearse. We were going to do a show with Chris Hillman for his album release at the Troubadour, and Tom was playing, and some of the Heartbreakers were going to play, and we just became really good friends. I mean, he was, being from the South, and I'm from the South,
Yeah.
So we got along really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah. He told me one of the coolest things about Tom was the second day when we started recording at where they recorded at, which was where Tom they kept off his guitars and stuff, and all the band rehearsed there. Next to the coffee pot was a album. I don't know if you know this record. Is a Statler Brothers record of Lester Roadhog Moran and the Cadillac Cowboys.
No.
I don't know if you know that record. It's you need to look it up. It'll change your life. It's a comedy record that the Statler Brothers did, and it is so funny. Well, Tom came in. I said, "Tom, do you know this record?" And he said, "Man, this is mine and the Heartbreakers' favorite record of all time." And so after that, we became close on the whole sessions, but.
And he really kind of challenged the record industry there at some when everything went over to CDs, because the idea of going over to CDs was that it would be cheaper for the fans, and then of course CDs were twice the price of cassette tapes, and he really took on the music industry and said, "Hey, let's get these prices of these albums down."
He was
Despite
the best.
it would hurt him financially to get cheaper. He believed they should be cheaper.
He was the best. I mean, after people pass away, they always say that, but Tom really was. I mean, I only knew him for about a year, and when he passed away, it hit a lot of people, all of his friends, really hard. I mean, he hadn't. I mean, he was the kind of guy that there was I'd said something about his boots one day. I said, "Man, I love those boots." He said, "Well, I'll get you a pair." He says, "The guy that makes them works for me." I said, "Oh, that's great." Well, some guy had been just down on his luck, and Tom found out he made boots, so Tom just hired him.
Just hired him to make boots.
And I think the guy lived at his house and just kind of did stuff around.
Nicole Bell says, "Had the honor to see Mark play Carnegie Hall. Amazing night. I remember seeing pictures from that. I wasn't invited, but anyways, was there a moment where you played these venues and played with some people? Is there a moment you get starstruck? I mean, early on maybe, or or do you play? By the time you get up to there, you're used to playing. Who was the first person you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe?
Well, there's been several of those. I did recorded with Johnny Cash, and that moment was you go in and then when you hear his voice come across the headphones, it's just you can't believe it. I did a couple of shows with Zakk Wylde, Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
That I was kind of, I wasn't necessarily starstruck, but it was I felt like I was a kid again. Getting to play with him.
Yeah. So you're substituting with Lyle Lovett out there on the road. You ever be on stage and look over and go, oh my gosh, I am on stage with the man who was married to Julia Roberts?
No. I don't think we would talk about that subject.
Of course, I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and Julia Roberts was a pretty woman, and I remember guys having posters of her up on the wall, and they were married for few months. I don't think it lasted long.
Yeah, I don't.
But when
I never asked it. Was there?
that's a good thing. But it's funny when I heard you were playing with all of it. I'd actually sent that in a text to you. I was like, "Man, have you found out what happened in their marriage?" And you're like, "No, don't ask that." So
Lyle is. I mean, you just have to know him. He is so kind. I mean, he just, he would, this was the acoustic tour. This is how kind he is. So every, if he wanted to change something, he's a master at putting a set together.
Yeah.
And he really thinks about it. If the fiddle has the intro on this song, he doesn't want the fiddle to be featured in the next song.
Okay.
And so he really listens every night. And he would go through this stuff at sound check and say that I want to change this. But he would say, now not tonight. We'll do it tomorrow night. I don't want you to worry about anything. So just play the show and have fun. He was always like that.
Yeah.
It's incredible. I love being
So
around
you wound up getting your longest steady gig was with Kentucky Thunder.
Yeah.
And that's Ricky Skaggs. And you've won, this is a pretty big deal, you've won some Grammys.
Yeah.
And maybe we ought to talk about that a little bit. But what did you win Grammys for?
Gosh.
You don't have to tell everyone.
Well, we won 7, or I won 7 with the work that I did with Ricky. And
you got to go to LA to the show?
I went to every one of them, yeah. And
Yeah.
got to go up and accept and the whole deal. Grammys are fun. Grammys, if you get nominated.
You get a swag bag?
They cut that out.
Oh,
You used to go down and get a bag if you wanted to go down there and get
that's
it.
always the deal that this year's Grammy swag bag was worth. One year it was worth like $10,000 or something.
Oh yeah. It had great stuff.
It had all this free stuff in there.
The best year at the Grammy, I got invited to go to this Grammy party. I can't think. Clive Davis's.
Oh yeah, I do.
I went to his Grammy party.
CBS was it?
Well,
CBS.
he was over for Columbia.
Columbia.
I mean,
yeah.
he signed
Oh, yeah.
Simon and Garfunkel, Bob
Janis
Dylan,
Joplin,
Janis. He signed
Aerosmith.
Yeah, he signed.
Yeah.
And so I went to his party. That was pretty. That was a good Grammy weekend.
I imagine something like Scarface and lines of cocaine or something like that. You don't have to comment on it.
No.
Yeah. But so yeah, that's one of your favorite Grammy moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been others. I met probably my best buddy, John Jorgensen, at the Grammys. He was playing with Elton John at the time, and I was with Ricky, and we met. And we became friends.
And I have a connection to that. You and John Randall play in the John Jorgensen band. Are y'all still doing that?
We do it every now and then.
Yeah.
It's we try to play more. Obviously, we're not playing now. But,
Yeah.
John Randall's so busy writing every country hit on radio.
Yeah. What's some of his hits right now? I'm trying to think.
You would know.
Oh yeah. Gosh, I'm sorry. But anyways, he didn't write. Did he write Whiskey Lullaby?
He wrote Whiskey Lullaby.
No, that's my favorite one. But my friend Lisa Bolt, who may or may not be watching, and helps assist him and Jesse Alexander, his wife.
Oh yeah.
And so.
Anyway. I would like to play more. Wow, that looks good.
We got food.
Nice.
And so.
But John went back out with Elton John last year to fill in for Davey, who had to have they've been out on like a 2 or 3 year world tour, and Davey had to have some surgery, or had a few little health problems, nothing serious, just something had to take some time off. And John Jorgensen went back out for that. And then Herb, he went out with Mudcrutch, Tom Petty's band. On that.
Yeah.
So that,
So how do you get this gig with Kentucky Thunder and Skaggs? How did that come about? And you played over parts of 3 decades, from 95 to 2011, is that correct?
Yeah.
So that's parts of 3. That's 16 years is a long time to do anything, much less in the music business.
Yeah,
I
met Ricky when I was 14 at the Opry, through Jimmy Capps.
Okay.
And it just always kind of stayed in touch with him, and Ricky had came out a band that I was playing in, and another gospel group I was out traveling with, and the Whites were on that record label. So Ricky came out, and he knew I played. He had heard me play, and then a few years later, I had left the road and just doing sessions, and Ricky called looking for a bass player. And at the time, he was only doing like 30 dates a year.
Yeah.
And which was perfect.
Yeah.
For me. So, and it was the country band. We hadn't started playing bluegrass yet.
Yeah.
And so
that was before '95 then, when you first started playing with him, so?
Well, yeah, maybe so. Maybe I think it was it may have been '94.
One of the things that really helped Ricky Skaggs is he had the country hits that he would have been big in the bluegrass world, period. But he had the country hits that really And then when you go to get paid for those live shows, having those country hits helps push that price up there.
You know, and what happened when I started, we were in 2 or 3 buses and had 2 or 3 transfer trucks and all that stuff. And we played the Lincoln Center in New York as a bluegrass band because I was in the band and my best buddy Brian Sutton was in the band, and we had Bobby Hicks, the great bluegrass fiddle player, and had gotten Mark Pruitt. So we had, and Paul Brewster, who was the Osborne brothers. He's still with Ricky, but we had a really good bluegrass band, and so we played the Lincoln Center and got a really good write up, and then in the New York Times, and then a few weeks after that we played Wolf Trap in D.C.
And
got a big write up. And then after that, everybody wanted to book the bluegrass band. So
you get closer so you can hear.
That's kind of how it started.
That man over there's got a Georgetown shirt on, so he knows where Wolf Trap is. He's talking about playing Wolf Trap right outside of D.C.
Yeah.
You decided to. Let me ask you this: before you started out playing guitar, right?
Yeah.
How did the transition to bass? Because most people, you know this. Most people don't. The guitar is the sexy instrument, right?
Well, it's kind of like Paul McCartney started playing bass because they needed the bass player, and I think a lot of bass players.
That's what happened.
Yeah.
So what was that? When was that moment where they said, "Hey, Mark, play the bass," and then you just kind of like realized that was your worth in the marketplace?
Well, when I first. Well, I graduated high school. When I graduated high school, on a Friday night, I came to Nashville the next day, and J.D. Sumner was there, and I went. He said, "Do you have your guitar?" And I said, "Yeah, it's out in the car. Well, go get it. I need somebody to play with me." So I did, and then I ended up playing with Singing Americans, that group that and they didn't need a guitar player, but they needed a bass player.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of how it was.
And you already knew how to play.
I had, growing up with my uncles on a music store, I wanted to play everything. So.
But your instrument, you play up. I mean, I'm sure you can play a regular bass, but fretted bass. But you play the upright.
Yeah.
That's the deal on bluegrass.
Yeah. And most people for the first 10 years of my career never knew I played upright.
Yeah.
And then now most people don't know I play electric.
Don't play. Well, I remember Jessica posted on Facebook one Sunday morning. You were playing guitar, and I said, "Now sing," and she goes. She said, "No, I did a good job. All I can do is let him record me." And I'm sure.
I'm such a bad guitar player. I have gotten better over the pandemic. That's the only good thing that's come out.
Sure. That bass, and you got this upright bass with no frets on it. And so you kind of have to guess where to go, I guess.
Well, I'm still guessing.
And bluegrass is fast.
It's an eye opener. It changes. I had grown up playing bluegrass, off and on with Ricky. Dadgum. That's the top of the line.
Yeah.
And man, you either get on the train or get left off.
Right.
And he's not afraid to lead you. Once he sets the tempo, that's
right. And boy, he plays that mandolin. You're like, how does anybody move that fast? It is just unbelievable.
I used to hear stories about the country band that Ricky would sit in the back of the bus and practice his break on Country Boy, one of his songs, and just get to where he could play it so fast. And then expect everybody else in the band to play.
Yeah, that was the one, and that's the one, if y'all guys remember that's the one that Bill Monroe was in the video, and he was Uncle Penn in the video.
Another interesting fact about that song, it was written by Tony Colton, which is Wilson County.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's from England, and we were at in Watertown eating pizza one night, Marshall and Lee and I, and this guy pulls up with a dog, and we had our dogs, and he says, well, I'm going to park down here, and he comes back, and Marshall introduces everybody and says, well, and Mark's a musician, and I usually never say anything about it, and
about
then
music.
so Tony goes, well, who do you play with? And I said, well, playing with Ricky Skaggs, and he says, well, I wrote Country Boy.
Small world. I was talking to a guy the other day, totally random. I handed him my card and I had a picture of me, my guitar on it. He goes, my neighbor wrote Check Yes or No.
Yeah.
And guy named Danny Wells. Danny Wells, if you're watching, that was his hit. That was his Check Yes or No, the big George Strait thing. So, but you decided to come off the road. And so kind of talk about, as we start easing out here, because I don't want to keep you all day, you've kind of transitioned into producing. And
I had another kind of Grammy thing. I had been working with Bruce Hornsby, and anyway, this other bass player that had recorded with Bruce was my absolutely all-time hero, favorite bass player, upright bass player ever, and he'd played on some of Bruce's records, and he was Bruce's. Was really into Keith Jarrett, the jazz piano player, and this guy Charlie Hayden was played bass with Keith Jarrett. Charlie and Ornette Coleman invented kind of the free jazz movement. They started all that, which is really out there.
Yeah,
But they anyway. So I met Charlie at the Grammys, and he was really nice to me. And then 2 years later, we had won a Grammy. Fortunate enough to win a Grammy, and so when
just another Grammy.
Well,
just another one.
I don't want to say. But once you win,
more
they
Grammys.
take you and put you in line,
Yeah.
and so you're in line, and all's in front of you is
school lunch or
other
something.
Grammy winners. So, you're sitting there with, Sting and whoever, Paul McCartney, whoever else has won a Grammy.
Right.
You're
Isn't
sitting
that
there.
cool?
So anyway, I'd kind of knew Norah Jones, and so they had won, and they were standing in line. We're sitting there talking. And here comes Charlie. He had won, and then so there's Charlie. I just kind of blew them off. Went straight to him, and we got talking. He'd remember talking, and I made the comment. Said, if you ever want to come to Nashville, I read that you wanted to record some. I'd love to help you. And so he got my phone number, and a couple of months later, he called and said, hey, I want to do this record. Would you produce it? And I said, yeah, of course. So, and that's kind of, after that record came out, people started calling. Because that record got a lot of critical acclaim. We got 2 times had got a whole page in the New York Times write-up about the record.
Yeah.
So.
Well,
And that's what really kind of.
And a lot of people may not know that Ricky Skaggs and Bruce Hornsby worked together, and so I'm sure you played the Jamestown Festival. Was it the Jamestown?
Yeah.
There's a great. You go on YouTube, and it was the Jamestown. What was it, the 400-year celebration? Go on YouTube and Google Ricky Skaggs, Bruce Hornsby singing "The Way."
Oh, is it on there?
It's on
I've
there,
never seen it.
and it is the blue. Of course, when you said Bruce Hornsby, I heard those first few notes on that piano. Da-da-dun, da-da-dun, da-dun. But the bluegrass, it's Ricky Skaggs and Bruce Hornsby coming together, and they did a bluegrass version. I'm sure you're on that video. It was at the Jamestown.
I was
Festival.
there. I played on all those records.
But it was
I
great.
think we did 2 or 3 records.
It was great to hear a different version of that song. Of course, Bruce Hornsby that came out when I was in his first big album that had popular success. Mandolin Rain and The Way was, I believe, maybe on the same album or not. I can't remember, but those songs were.
I think it was on the same record.
Those 2 songs were big. You know Charlotte Scott.
Yeah.
And Charlotte Scott still is the general manager for Skaggs Family Records, I think. And she was telling me about how she was up there during that festival, and Bruce Hornsby, Ricky Skaggs, and Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan.
Shaka Khan.
I heard there's some footage of Shaka Khan coming out and playing with us too.
Right.
Somewhere.
And so she said there was a jam session that night, and she was talking about kind of how amazing a life that she has had when I was talking to her. She said, sit around, and there was a jam session. I'm like, I'm sitting here listening to Ricky Skaggs, Bruce Hornsby and Shaka Khan in a room just playing together, and
Oh,
it's kind of funny how
Yeah, it's
we're all incidental, like in that feather on the breeze in Forrest Gump. We just kind of land up in some places.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly.
I think it's a good place to end it. I thank you so much
Well.
for coming out. It's been great.
Hey,
We could
thanks for
talk
having me.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, we could talk. I could talk for hours, man. You're speaking my language. You want to go? You want to play this song and me sing it?
No, what are you playing?
Good morning, Lebanon. Good morning, Lebanon. The sun is up, it's time to get stuff done. The coffee's hot, come on and get you some. Good morning, Lebanon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. He just needed the right person asking the right questions. That's what it was.
The right subject.
Well, that's the only subject I know.
Well, Mark is McConnell, and his wife.